I subconsciously made a deal with the devil, only because I chose not to be put on any level, always choosing to be humbled and such, not being able to not care, but probably caring too much. For people who carried emotional wounds, trauma bonding is all I ever knew, being I was groomed. For my own trauma that started from my family. They are karmic, you see, and they didn't resonate to me. They came from low vibrational energy of jealousy, lust, and envy. I had to understand, and overstand what I was coping through because I just couldn't understand. All I saw was the pain and the hurt, and all these people wanted me to feel like lower than dirt. I didn't because my mission was true from the start, and that was to look at people from the potential of their heart. That inner child that suffered, this hell-bound planet is buffered for such things of lower vibrational mind, body, and soul. A lot of us souls are way too old to continue in the same cycle of hurt people hurting people. Let me know if I seem to get too deep. Oh, the funny fact of this is that the devil thought I was on his team. But what he forgot and overlooked was that I had my own beam of the light of righteousness because I watched and observed and I profess. I am nothing like these people on this earth. I tried to empathize and sympathize from the time of my birth. Back in 1977, when I knew my mission on this earth was way too big. I am an indigo child, and my mission was to be much bigger than I ever knew, but my soul was determined. So I grew and I grew. Now the devil don't have no bounds on me. Back in 2022, I did everything to make me free. Free from all that tried to bind me in fear. I fear no one or nothing. Come closer so you can hear. All right, so what's up, guys? My name is Lady V, and what inspired this creative work was I can admit that there were times when I was growing up that I dealt with lower vibrational people at the time, not only because I was trauma bonding with them, but because they were a little more interesting. They were a little more fun. You know, that's when it was going through the whole bad boy era, the ones who were talking about being gangsters and all this other stuff. And I come from a small city outside of Chicago, but eventually I lived in the city of Chicago. And we all know the reputation of Chicago and how they call it Chirac and all this other stuff. And I saw some things and I was around some things. And, when it comes to being there or being from there, a lot of people try to put you in this box as, oh, you're from Chicago. And they just put this big stigma on you think you bad or you think you all that or you think because of the reputation of Chicago. But I was never like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I was the nice girl that lived in the hood. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't a part of the product of my environment, as far as what the reputation of Chicago is. So, I did try to be in a gang at one point, and that was only because, you know, people were always after me. People were always trying to fight me for some reason. So it was suggested that if I got into the gang, that I would have the protection of all the other gang people. You know what I'm saying? And I thought it was a good idea. I just knew it wasn't me though, for real, for real. And but I did represent, at some point until I had my first child at 16. And then all of that kind of went by the wayside. I got out of it easily. And we all know that, if you get into a gang, they say that there's certain ways to get out of it. You either got to get jumped or beat or, whatever the circumstances is. I didn't have to go through any of those things. I just walked away and left it behind me. But yeah, that life was intriguing. So therefore, I did hang out with, the riffraff of the streets. I hung out with people who had bad reputations. I hung out with troublemakers, and I guess even though I wasn't a part of that life, I was very intrigued by it, because I guess I could say I admired these people because they had the balls, they had the guts, you know. But where the whole thing was is trouble followed these people, you know what I'm saying? Because when I wasn't around them and I was always like maybe by myself or somebody caught me by myself, then it's more like that's when they want to come up to me because all they know is that I've been around this type of person. And so now I'm alone. Now, what's up? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, when I left Chicago, I went to Indiana. So people knowing I came from Chicago, I had problems there. That people wanted to be in competition with me and wanted to come up against me and just things like that. So, I mean, I'm going to always rep the shy, but, I haven't been home in over 20, 30 years. So, that's where a lot of my trauma happened at. So I don't really try to go to the Midwest at all. I'm a Southern girl now. And so I've been away from there for a very long time. But I will always represent it because that was a big part of my life. But because I dealt with the riffraff of the world, I saw a lot of things. I experienced a lot of things. You might as well say I danced with the devil plenty of times, slept with the enemy, all of those things. And I guess that's how I eventually got into spiritual warfare. People didn't have a reason to really come for me because I wasn't out there causing problems, being a problem. But because of, I guess, my light irritating their demons, they came for me in spirit. So people waged war against me while still smiling in my face, still coming around, still being around me. And a lot of my lovers were, you know, very abusive, you know what I'm saying? I was in abusive relationships where men wanted to beat on me and put their hands on me and all that. And I'm up here sitting up here because I'm addicted to dick at the time. I'm up here sticking around and hanging with them and letting them do me any kind of way. But when I was done, I was done. A lot of it was just sex. A lot of it was just soul ties and shit. Me putting up with the bullshit just for a couple of wet ass moments. You know what I'm saying? And it did show that I didn't have any self love. It showed that I didn't really have worth other than what I was being presented with. I mean, that was one of the things that was trained within me. So I, went down a rabbit hole a little bit. I didn't get too crazy with it. I had my limitations. I mean, some people, when they go down the rabbit hole, they go down the rabbit hole. Okay. They trying all kind of different drugs and doing all kind of different dark things. I had my limits on what I did and what I didn't do. And I never was into drugs like that. The most I probably did was smoke weed, maybe did an X pill, you know, did a psilocybin, you know. The psilocybin I can say was a trip. That kind of is what helped me in my healing. The things that I experienced on that's when I realized what was going on with myself, and I was able to detach from the demon that was holding on to me. I mean, that moment, that particular experience I had with psilocybin, like broke me free. That's why I said in 2022, that's when I was broke free of the incubus succubus energy that was over me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not gonna get too much into it right now, if that's anything that I talk about on my Unspoken Chapter series, if you want me to elaborate on, if you want me to go more into depth with, uh, because I'm only doing 25 minutes at a time, but if there's something that you want me to talk more about and give you more input, if it was interesting to you when I brought it up, please let me know, comment, and say that you want me to elaborate more on a specific thing that you heard me say. And I will gladly do that. But anyway, and so because I had so many soul ties though, you know what I mean? Because like I said, I was taught to be over sexualized. So, you know, a lot of people tried to bind me. And then that's when I found out as well about sex magic. People talk about digmatized or the magic stick is a dick and all that other stuff. Well, there is a such thing as people doing sex magic on you, and you may not know that they're doing it. You know what I'm saying? But when they say stuff like "whose pussy is this" or "you mine" or whatever the hell be going on during the intimacy that you are, orgasming to, you made a soul contract with. You agreed with that person. Not only you giving them your body, but you also, agreeing with them, whatever the hell that they're saying to you, and you soul tie, you bind yourself to them, and then next thing you know, you are now acting crazy and goofy over the nigga. You know what I'm saying, or vice versa. You know what I'm saying? You now, you can't stop thinking about them. You can't stop being around them. You act crazy when they start doing certain things or being certain ways or being around certain people. And, you know, people can really get crazy in the head when it comes to laying down with folks. And you're not even knowing that somebody bound you to your sake. So for women, we have our sacral energy. Okay. I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with the chakra systems. There's 7 of them, and they have to be balanced. You can't have an imbalanced chakra system because that's how your body ends up taking on the physical illnesses and ailments of this earth, because your chakra aligns your spiritual aura, your spiritualness. You know what I'm saying? It keeps you healthy. It keeps your auric field pure so that low vibrational entities can't come and infiltrate your space. This is why, there's always a depiction of somebody having a dark cloud over them. Those are people with negative energies, negative spirits surrounding them. And then there's always depictions of people who have a bright light around them. That's because they're pure. They are healthy spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, romantically, and sexually. You know what I'm saying? They have a high spiritual ranking surrounding them. They're protected. And so the trauma is what makes people come in. The trauma is what makes the enemy come in. The trauma is what makes you be attached to people who are no good for you. You know what I'm saying? This is why you're attracting them in the first place. They can see through your aura. You know what I'm saying? They can see that you've been hurt. They smell it. They can feel it. They taste it. And then that's when they come in as what they call it, or what they say, the devil comes in as a being of light, but he's really dark. That's how that happens. And they try to do things. And there's also people who are called energy vampires. They already see that you've been hurt, and they already see the molestation that's been on you, the fact that you've been raped and all this other stuff. They see that you have abandonment issues and mama issues and daddy issues, and so they come in as being an angel of light to pretend like they can come in and help you, or that they care, or they sympathizing with you, and then they come in and do the same thing. That's why, when people are vulnerable, like especially women, they're vulnerable and they're telling the person that they like or love, I was hurt and this happened to me and blah blah blah, and then that person is feeding off of that. You're giving them something to chew on, and they'll sit up here and lie to your face. I'll never do that to you. You don't have to worry about that happening with me. And then they turn out to do the same damn thing. And then you said you'll never do this to me. And, they are energy vampires. they come to lie, steal, kill, and destroy. And you trauma bonded with them, and you soul tied with them. So therefore, they feel like they have entitlement to you. You know, this is where you have to do your spiritual cleansing. Because there are spiritual parasites. Anytime you lay down with somebody, you're not just soul tying with them. You are allowing the parasitic energy that they are to infiltrate your body, mind, and your soul. When women let men ejaculate in them, it's not just to possibly get pregnant. It's not just catching a sexually transmitted infection. It's also catching sexually transmitted demons called parasites. And they come in and they will try to ruin your life and ruin your body and put you all in fucked up situations. Now you don't know why you crazy over somebody. You don't know why you jealous that he's talking to another female. Now you want to beat the female up and all this shit. This is what that's all about. And that's what binds. That's what the devil binds. Sexual perversion and sexual sin is the biggest, most easiest thing for humans to get caught up in. This is why they molest you when you're kids. This is why they touch on you when you're babies, because they transfer the energy. The energy is transferred to you. And then you have the aura in your aura field. And now you are a target for any and everybody who has that same fucking energy in them. Like they turn you. It's literally vampirism. They turn you into that. Now you're promiscuous. Now you're having infidelity. Now you're bringing different baby mamas and baby daddies around. Now you got multiple kids by everybody. Now you know got you talking about you're a polygamist, but really you're just soul swapping with everybody. And to each his own. Some people are okay with that. People like to be tied to lustful incubus, succubus demons and shit, and that's fine. That's them. You know what I'm saying? But to me, the things that I went through, the things that I experienced, and after realizing what it really was, it really grosses me out to know that I participated in that shit. You know what I'm saying? No matter how good it might have been at the time, when I think about it, I'm like, ew, like I really let that happen. I really did those things. You know what I'm saying? And that's what binding you has to do with. And the same for men who sleep with females who got the Jezebel hoe in them, or the succubus energy, like women who, not everybody is clean. Everybody's pHs is not the same. Remember, women's organs are inside while man's organ is outside. So the inside of a woman has to be really taken care of. You really have to know your body, the smell of your body, the feel of your body, the look of your body. You really have to pay attention to those things because we hold in what we're given to receive. And so when it goes into our sacral energy, we hold on to that. So if a man is mad, angry, sad, if he's got all this low vibrational shit on him, he comes and release off in you, and now you got low vibration shit in you, and you're being the same way and acting the same way as this motherfucker. Or if he done got done sleeping with a female who's evil and just some messy ass bitch, and he comes and brings that energy over to you, now you feeling the same messy ass bitchness as the nigga just came from another bitch that's messy and shit, and you sit up here swapping fluids and stuff, and like I said, everybody ain't clean. You know what I'm saying? So, and people are just free sexing and being okay with it, that's why there's an outburst of STDs going on and high rate of HIV, and people are okay with that, because they're so into the binding of the sexual perversion sin that they okay with passing this shit around, you know? No, I stopped having sex. It's been 2 years now. I ain't had no sex. And I'm not celibate. Celibate means that you giving your life completely over to God, and God is your air, your breath, your smell, your taste, your food, all of that. I'm not celibate. I am abstinent. There's a difference. I don't have sex. So, in celibacy, you can't masturbate, you can't do any of those things. Abstinence, you're just not having sex with another human being. You still might play with your toys or something like that. You still might play with yourself, but you are abstinent, not celibate. It's a difference. Anywho, so I just don't have the desire. Like, I definitely know that incubus spirit came off of me when I did the psilocybin back in 2022, because I literally saw it come out of my body. It is a spirit. You know what I mean? And that thing tried to hold on to me. I'm up here thrashing about on the bed. I'll never forget. I'm up here thrashing about on the bed, flipping and flopping like a fish, because that incubus spirit was trying to stay in my body, so it can keep attracting lustful, disgusting as men. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. I don't fuck with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm done. I'm not sharing myself with nobody else. The person that, if I ever, because I don't have the desire to have sex anymore. So if I ever deal with somebody, one or two things are going to happen. Either I'm going to have to do it and not have no attachment, and I don't even want to take that risk. But if I do it, we're together. And it's only going to just be me and you. You know what I'm saying? That's it. I'm not doing that swapping fluids with folks, And so that was one of the things I could say that I dealt with the devil in, you know what I'm saying? And it took me, I'm in my late 40s. So it took me a while, from being molested at 4 all the way up until, I say, the last time I had intercourse was back in 2024. You know what I'm saying? January, February of 2024. So it took all the way from that time to that time for me to finally say, and during the course of those years, I've gone without sex before. I think the longest probably was 2 years, but now we're in 2 years and counting. So I don't really have the desire. And I think back then, the difference from now until then, back then I had desire. I wanted to. You know what I'm saying? I just chose not to. This time I don't have the desire. You know what I'm saying? Because people are nasty and they don't take care of their bodies. I want to do. I yoni steam. I done steam my coochie to the point where I'm letting all the impurities of anything or anybody, because when a man ejaculates in a woman, that shit stays in your body forever. And so in order to, break those soul ties, in order to, get your pH balance back in order, you have to steam that shit. Get that shit up out of you. You know what I'm saying? Just like tea is meant to, be taken when you want to drink some hot tea and it has its healing properties. Yes, your coochie needs some hot tea too. Okay? They got some for men. I forgot, it's a certain name that they call it for men, but men can steam they dinglings as well. Get some of that energy off of them as well. You know, this is part of the healing journey. This is part of taking care of your spiritual hygiene. You know what I'm saying? This is part of self love, caring about yourself, and it definitely breaks the soul ties. You know, and it keeps the aura of people that's trying to be lustful from coming around you and trying to attach to you and shit. So that's one thing that I can proudly say was one of the biggest rewards of being on this spiritual journey, is releasing and letting go, and more ways than one: spiritually, mentally, physically, financially, romantically, and sexually. I had to let it all go and trust God. And, you know, I don't regret nothing. But anyway, if you like this, please comment, share, subscribe. And I have another one on the way. So stay back, stay tuned, and I will talk to you soon. Peace out.